if any of you saw the VLab forum talk that we did on this a couple of months ago, then you will have already seen this. But for those of you who haven't, this will be hopefully useful. So, and then we're going to give sort of a demo of the VLab Projects Repository, or the NOAA Projects Repository in the VLab, with the purpose of, as I sent out in an email, there is this pilot, performance measure pilot that's been initiated in NOAA. And the basic idea is that we want to capture project level data across NOAA for so-called R&D projects. Those of you who've been around a while may recall the days, before there was VLab, there was this thing called the RIT, the Research and Innovation Transition Team. And we had to collect data for Weather Service projects, basically, and provide them to NOAA. And we did this using Excel spreadsheets. So this was a very painful process. We had to send out the spreadsheets, and people filled them in, and then they sent them back to us, and then we had to ask questions. And in the end, we had to take all that data and roll it up into something that we delivered to NOAA. And it was manual and error-prone, and just took, it was very painful to collect these data. So now in that was about 4 years ago. So now in 2015 here, we're sort of going back to that project collection and I'll show you the motivation why. But we're now doing a semi-automated process here using the VLab and this projects repository, which Mike Giebler, who's going to do the demo, has developed for us. So it's sort of like Back to the Future, I guess you could say, but hopefully in a way that's much easier for people to provide these data. All right. Okay, so what is this? So it's basically a web interface, and there are two main motivations. The first one is it allows NOAA employees to investigate and compare R&D projects active in the agency to improve collaboration and situational awareness on this concept called research to applications, which I'll talk about in a minute. And this is important because Weather Service in particular, but not just Weather Service, has been criticized severely by these outside studies. You've probably heard this before, that we don't manage our innovation well. We have people developing things in the regions, in forecast offices, in laboratories, at NCEP, at the Water Center, it's not. And people basically don't know what other people are doing. So this has been a criticism that's been placed on us, and Louis Cellini is trying to address it. And this is one of the ways that we're trying to address it, is to provide a place where these data can be input easily and shared, so there's transparency and people can see what's going on. So the one use case is that before a ITO or a SU, for example, in a regional office, forecast office, starts to embark on some new prototype, they might check this database to see if anyone else is already working on something like that. And if they are, they might, before they go independently and start doing something, they might consider joining up with the effort that's already underway and save themselves some time and the agency some money. So that's one of the motivations for this. So this, the projects repository will persist and hopefully be a useful tool in that regard, a shared database where people can see what's going on. The second sort of core motivation is to allow owners of R&D projects in NOAA to input their project data to a central location in compliance with this NOAA administrative order and this FY15 pilot that we're embarking on. So that's what the second one is. What we're really here to talk about today is how in MDL we should input our data and what are the basics for doing that so that we're good citizens and basically meeting our needs and the needs of the agency in this regard. So we're going to walk you through that in a minute and you know, take questions and provide some guidelines about how you all have been invited because you are nominally project owners by the definition that's been given for this. So you're in charge of some sort of project that is moving along from some development, research, and or development stage into hopefully a transition into operations. So this, what does this research to application mean? It has sort of three flavors that have been defined in this NAO research to operations, which is the one that we're involved with. There are other two flavors, research to commercial applications. So this is, there is a NOAA Technology Partnership Office that deals with this. And then there's a catch-all category called research to other uses. And this is to allow for the space that is actually pretty active if you talk to other parts of the agency, where there are sort of research and development that's done for the purpose of informing policy and regulations and resource management. So, for example, the climate assessment is done by NOAA or led by NOAA, and these reports are used for these purposes. The National Ocean Service gets tasked to do studies on the impacts of wind farms offshore and their impact on the ocean and wildlife and fisheries, that sort of thing. So those are examples of R2U. But for MDL's purpose, we're almost always in R2O. So just to make that clear, I mean, so far in the 20 years I've been here, we've never done any commercial applications, but we could in theory. Just for FYI, there's sort of different models for transition in these types of areas. So the R2O is the pass the baton model, I call it, where we, MDL, for example, work closely with a SPA at NCO and NCEP, who then, Arthur is sitting next to me, is very familiar with this model, where you have to coordinate extremely highly, sometimes delving into code to troubleshoot bugs, and then do AWIPS testing on the output, etc. And if things don't happen properly, then the baton is dropped, and bad things can happen. The tech transfer model is defined by the laws that are in place for that, and then these R2U models are sort of undefined. The reason why we want to measure the performance of this transition in the R2A arena is that NOAA has what I call an ecosystem for R&D, where you've got employees and offices and research labs and cooperative institutes and different, lots of operational systems, and all of this works in a variety of ways. It's very complex and interrelated, but somehow the output of that are the new services and products that hopefully benefit the public in general. And so the question is, how do you measure the performance of this ecosystem in terms of its efficiency and effectiveness? So the NAO recently, in a draft state still, but hopefully signed soon, defines this framework, which makes use of a concept called technical or technology readiness levels, which originally were defined in NASA. And it's a simple model, but it basically has 4 phases: research, development, demonstration, and application, and being the last phase. Not all projects start out in a research mode. They can start out as development, but they generally all have development, demonstration, and eventually application. So the idea is, with this broad framework, that it can be applied to the very diverse sorts of R&D projects that exist across NOAA, and including those that happen in MDL. So just to give you, for example, what we're looking at, if you consider this in a large corporate concept for NOAA, for example, an efficient model of this would be where you have a kind of a pyramid with a very broad base, where you have lots of researchy types of prototype projects, but only a small percentage of those move into a development phase because it's costly to go into development. You have to spend more resources, and as you go up this pyramid, it becomes increasingly more expensive. So, but at that demonstration to application, you would hope that everything that was technically mature and proven scientifically, that 100% of those things would move into operations, say, in a given time frame. That would be a very effective model. So in other words, you didn't have things that got stuck in a demonstration phase and languished. This has been one of the problems that NOAA's been criticized with, that we have these sort of quasi-operational things that never get moved into operations, and they take up resources indefinitely. An ineffective model is sort of the one I was just talking about at the my last few sentences there, is where a lot of these researchy projects move quickly or easily to a development phase, and then they move rapidly to some demonstration phase. And you have a bottleneck, essentially, where the cost, which is the highest to go from that demonstration application, you can never come up with the dollars to do that one-off transition, and or you don't have the O&M sustainment tail to support things once they are transitioned, so that only a small percentage of what's fully demonstrated actually makes it into operation. So this picture, we don't know what it looks like in NOAA. We have no idea, actually. I mean, it's, people have their own anecdotal evidence for what they think it looks like, but we don't know what it's like. So the only way we're going to get a handle on what this looks like across NOAA is to collect these data at the project level, which has never been attempted before. So your participation in this pilot is our contribution to this bigger picture, essentially. So now let's talk about how we're going to do this in MDL. So Mike or John, do I have to relinquish my screen, or can you just take it from me?
I'm transferring it over to Mike as we speak.
Okay.
Mike, are you ready?
Yeah, I am. Hopefully, you'll be able to see my screen here in a second.
Excellent. Yes, we can.
Okay. All right. So collecting this data, we're using the virtual lab. So that's at vlab.ncep.noaa.gov. And once you log in, this is the screen that you get to. And we put the project repository on one of the tabs on the first welcome page. And that's where I'm at right here. And then this is, once you click there, this is the initial interface that you're presented with. And let me just give you just a quick overview. This is kind of a place where you can browse and look at projects that other people have entered in here. You can sort this on some of these column headers to help you find things. We have a search area up here in this toolbar area where you can search for things. This will search through most of the fields. We also have an advanced search. If you click on that, it'll present you a form. Say you wanted to look at everything for just National Weather Service, you can click that and then click the search button, and that'll filter everything down to just those items that have the line office of National Weather Service.
Hey, Mike, let me just say that, so what's in this is the production system, so what you're seeing is available to be seen by anyone. And right now, I already asked my branch, with the exception of Arthur, to input projects that we're working on in the decision support branch. So what you'll see in there are mostly those projects. So that will give you a good example of kind of what we're looking for. But go ahead, Mike.
Okay. All right. So But what we're mostly focusing on today is, well, how do you enter your project data in here? And again, just want to draw your attention up here to the toolbar. We have, first of all, some good help out here. Click on that. You have an option to look at the user's guide. And that's broken down into different sections. We have new projects, how to submit projects. So there's some information on how to do that if you forget between the demonstration and going out there. If you just run into something that looks unusual, that'll help you find that. But to add a project, on the toolbar we just have an Add Project button. You click on that, and it's a multi-step process. But each step is pretty small. First one is a description of the project. We have a project name and a description field. And this description field can be pretty lengthy. If you want, you can expand that.
And you can cut and paste. So what I did, or what others have done, is if you have like a web page or you have some other document with a description, you can cut it and just paste it in there.
And navigating through the different steps, we have two different ways of doing that. We have next and previous buttons at the bottom. Also, you can click on the step description up at the top. That works as well. It'll take you to.
Can we hold on a moment, please?
Certainly.
Running into a problem with viewing your screen. I could view it just fine when it was when it came out of Silver Spring, and now I'm not seeing. Is anyone else having the problem?
We can see his screen in Silver Spring.
Yeah, I'm seeing it here in my house.
I'm having the same problem, Matt.
Okay, what I'm going to do is drop off the GoToMeeting and rejoin, and we'll see what happens from there.
Yeah, I can see the screen.
Keep going. I can hear every word.
Okay.
You're recording this, right, Steve?
Yes, we
we're
are
recording it.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so then step 2 is owner information, and we pre-populate these fields based on who's logged in. When you're logged in, we can pull your name and your email address, but we also realize that you might delegate somebody else to enter this information for you, and in that case, they can change this information if need be. One thing that we don't have the phone number, so that's something that you'll be required to enter. And step 3 is project details, and there's quite a bit of information on this page. Scroll down, there's a dozen fields or so. First one is the NOAA line office. We'll select NWS. And the next few fields are different organizations. We have the organization for the project owner, for example. And what we've done here is we've provided 2 different ways to look these up. These have been added in advance. We realize that we might be missing a few, and if that is the case for your project, we added this Add Organization button right here at the top. If you go there, you can click on that.
But Mike, let me just jump in. So for the project owner part, that will be MDL, since we're all MDL for this case.
Okay. All right, so then to go ahead and find that, we have the drop-down option, and then you have to scroll through and find that. Another option is this has search capability in it, so you can just type in the MDL, and that'll pop that right up in the format that we want.
So the next one, yes, for our case is, so this R&D source organization is sort of who developed the thing that's being, transitioned. So since we do most of our own stuff, at least this group here, it's likely going to be MDL for this second organization as well. Let me just walk through while you're doing that, Mike. So
okay,
transition partner is who is working to implement whatever the thing is. So again, we do most of our own transitions, so that it's going to be MDL in this case as well. So the first three for ours, unless there's something different, like for example, for Auto Nowcaster, that one you'll see that in the table, and that one the source organization is actually NCAR. They developed the technology, but the other two are the project owner is MDL and the transition partner is MDL. And the last one, the applying or receiving organization, that's who's going to maintain it. And so for MDL, that's usually NCO these days. In the case of MOS or you know, the blender, etc. The other possibility is if you're doing something that's going to AWIPS, then it would be the Office of Central Processing.
Where did you change the website?
That where does the website end up running?
Possibly IDP then.
That would be IDP. Yeah.
Or if it's an MDL website.
If it's an MDL website, it's not operational. So it's either going to be NIST or it's going to be IDP. Okay, Mike. Sorry, but that was contextual.
No, that's great. Okay, thanks.
So the next drop down, you just follow my cue, okay, buddy?
Okay, we'll do.
The next one is all good for us. It's R2O. So you just select R2O, that one, and move on. And then the target system here, this is you know, it's going to be for us. It's either IDP, AWIPS, possibly NIDS. But if there's something that's not there, you know, that if you're like maybe in Matt Peruka's case, something that's going to FAA or I don't know where, it may not be in the list. And in this case, Mike, let's show them how to add a system if they can't find one.
Okay. All right, so we have the Add Target System right there next to it. Button. Click on that button and it'll take you to a form. It's a very small form. There's just 3 fields. 2 of them are required. Should I just do a demo for this, or do you have something in mind?
Yeah, just put demo on FAA system. FAA system. Yeah.
All right.
That works.
Okay.
FAAS.
Oops. I'm having trouble with my keyboard here. There we go. There we go. So that's all there is to that. Click Save. And then it takes you back here where you were. And it saves information that you'd previously entered, so you don't lose any of that information. And now it should be available in here. And there it is.
Right. So the reason we did this, hang on, Mike. The reason we did this is so anybody using it, not just MDL, because we don't know, it's impossible to know all the target systems in the R2O path. So we wanted people to, if they had one that wasn't there, they could add it themselves. So that's basically what that is. So
it's a permanent thing, and others 3 days later will see that.
That's right. They'll be able to use it themselves. So with time, the number of target systems is going to grow. And when somebody adds a target system, we get notified so we can quality control it and see if it's legit or there's some error in it. So the next step is the one where you actually have to determine what the current technical readiness level is of the project that you own. Okay. So this is where you'll have to read these descriptions, and they're kind of high-level generic descriptions, and pick one. And if it's you're not sure, pick the one you think is the best. because you can, the other thing I'll mention is that you can, as a project owner, you'll be able to edit these, any of these fields later on at any time. You'll have complete edit control. So if you pick the wrong one, you can go back and change it. If you want to fix your description, you want a better description, you can edit that. So the point is to pick one that best represents where your current project is at in this 1 to 9 category. Most of our stuff is going to be probably in this 4 to 8 range. And you can see, so there's a component subsystem validation, a laboratory environment. Next one is in a relevant environment. Then there is demonstration in an end-to-end environment. 7 is demonstration in an operational environment. And the last, you can see what the last 2 are. So, and you can look at what's already pre-populated in the table for the projects in my branch to get an idea what people are putting in. But don't worry about it too much. Don't agonize about it too much. Like I said, all of this really is going to be rolled up to give statistics for all of NOAA. So your little MDL project is if it's not quite right, it's not going to make a big difference in the huge picture that we're trying to paint. So anyway, go ahead and pick one for this, Mike,
All right.
and then move on.
Hi, Steve. This is Judy.
Yes, Judy.
I have a question about the previous one, the target system.
Yeah.
So what happens if you have multiple target systems?
You have multiple projects then. Give me an example.
Well, so for instance, LAMP. LAMP is available on AWIPS. It also will probably in the future go to NIDS. It might also go to FAA or AWC.
So you'd have
how do we capture that?
You'd have a different project for each one of those. You'd have LAMP to AWIPS, LAMP to FAA, LAMP to NIDS, something like that. You can only a project can only go to one operational system at a time.
That doesn't seem to make the most sense to me for our project.
Well, if you have to, so if you put something on an FAA system, that system owner has to accept it, right?
Oh, okay. So maybe I'm asking the question wrong. I mean, I'm talking about operational products that come out of NCEP. So LAMP is an operational project that gets disseminated from NCEP, and it goes multiple places.
Yeah. So once it's for your purposes, and once it's on the WCOS, it's done.
Okay.
Unless for your purposes, unless you are responsible for its arriving properly in AWIPS, for example, and I don't think you are. That's somebody else's job, right?
Right.
And you don't have to worry about that. All you have to worry about is getting it working on WCOS.
So our target system then is WCOS?
Yep.
Okay, I see.
Yeah, only what you're responsible for.
I see.
So Steve, this is Ken. One clarification there. It is possible that for larger projects, such as perhaps LAMP, that you could have sub-projects going on. So there may be some new capability or something like that you're developing for it. And in those sorts of cases, you would most likely create projects, independent projects within this if you're wanting to track that. Because a project can only be at one TRL level.
Right. So that's I was going to get to that, but we might as well talk about it now. So let's use LAMP as an example. So LAMP is a big project, and it has like enhancements and new things coming onto it. And the way I think the best way to view that for this purpose is to say if it's a new interaction with a SPA and a new implementation, that should be a project of itself and an independent project. So the next major LAMP enhancement, LAMP version, whatever, blah, 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 that would be its own project. So you've got LAMP as a large overarching project, but then you have these sub-projects, LAMP C&V 2.5, that would be its own project. So in the case of storm surge, for example, you've got, ETS version this, PETS version this. Each one of those would be its own project in this case, because it can only exist at one TRL level at a time, and when it's implemented, it's done, and then you move on to the next thing. So one of the goals here, we believe, or one of the objectives, is that a lot of these transitions in NOAA happen regularly without a lot of muss and fuss, but we don't track them in any way, shape, or form. So we're trying to use this database to give the agency some ammunition when Dr. Sullivan goes down the hill and said, look, all this stuff that we're transitioning into operations, in a day-to-day basis. So Judy, does that make sense?
Yeah, so a follow-on question then is, so say we have an implementation, and we do, that we're working on right now for gridded lamp. Does it have to have an overarching lamp project?
No,
because
no,
you said
no,
once
no.
it's done, it's done. So, okay.
Oh, no, there's no, actually, we don't have a hierarchy set up in this, so it actually won't have. I mean, you can, in your naming convention on what you call these things, because you can sort these tables, and if you have a consistent naming convention to all your LAMP projects, then you can probably find them easily. But no, there's no need to have an overarching LAMP project. They're just, each project stands on its own.
Okay, so basically every implementation we have would be its own project. And would you want a project for something that at NCEP they kind of make a distinction between having a quad chart? If you don't have a TIN, if it's transparent to users, you don't necessarily need to have a quad chart. Would you want to have a project for something that's transparent to users and doesn't require a TIN? Like say you're upgrading equations, although that might have a TIN. Say you're doing something really minor that doesn't impact the format of your outgoing product.
So this is going to be a judgment call, Judy. I mean, if it's minor and it's really under the radar, then you might not want to include it. You're going to have to decide that, I think, in consultation with Dave or your staff, because I mean, if it's really small, maybe it's not worth it. But if it's requiring, say if it doesn't require a TIN, but it's a very, it may be under the radar, but it's actually significant upgrade of something, then you probably would want to include that. I mean, I wouldn't use the TIN, no TIN necessarily as your deciding criteria.
Okay, so like for example, we had to do an implementation just to change the permissions on some files that were restricted access to make sure that they were restricted access in production.
That would not qualify in my view. That's the business of maintaining your software essentially. Yes. That's not a new thing that's improving your product.
Yes. Yeah, it's maintenance.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, that clarifies it. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Matt Pericto with a question now, and that is, if I'm understanding your criteria for what makes a project, and if indeed this is NOAA-wide, then every model implementation that NCEP is going to schedule will have a project in here, and just about every AWIPS point release will have a project in here.
That's correct.
And who's going to break the news to those people?
That's our job. That's why we had an email go out from our wonderful director, basically, and the chief scientist, Dr. Spinrad, to give us cover.
I'm behind you, bro, all the way. Good luck with that one.
But I won't hesitate to point out that we have worked, and Mike Giebler, who's doing the demo, and Ken Sparrow, sitting right next to him in California, sort of. We work really, really hard to make this as easy and simple as possible. So it shouldn't take, anyone, once you understand what you need to do, more than, 10 minutes max to actually input the data. So it might take a little bit of time to think about it, but the first time is going to be the hardest. After that, it should be pretty easy, and you can sort of, you know, it shouldn't be that hard. So,
is there a life cycle on this stuff? Like, come 2 years from now, am I going to be able to see what I input or Dave inputted so many years ago? I mean, how is this?
So we're not deleting anything from the database, even if it's finished yet anyway. So you should be able to go back and see. I mean, we may have to deal with that issue at some point. I will say that we're intending to provide well, I'll call it a ping to the project owners. So periodically, you would be notified, like, do you want to update your TRL level or something like that? And you may have forgotten about this, and it will ping you and say, please check out if you don't have to do anything, but you might want to. The idea is that as your project moves through the TRL levels to actual implementation, that you would update your project and let us know that it's actually done. That's really important, actually, because that's the progress we're trying to measure, is how fast or slow these things get pushed through the system and represent progress for the agency. Did I answer your question, Dave?
Yeah. I have a different question. So suppose I have PSERS version for 2014, and now I implement PSERS for 2015. So the 2014 is gone. How do I delete?
We have, Mike, I guess we'll have you show this in a minute. But I don't know if we'll allow it to delete, but there's a status for the project which you control. So you can, I believe the project owners, there's a completed function. So once it's done, you label it as completed, and basically that's and whether or not we delete those from the database or not, we're yeah. It's no longer in place. Okay, Mike, why don't you proceed?
Okay. Next step is information about any transition plan. So first of all, there's just a drop down. Is there a transition plan? The next option is there a transition date? That's a little bit an extra step here. You have to, the default is no transition date, and that's checked. You'll have to uncheck that and then click in here and either type in or select a transition date.
That's kind of way out in the future.
Pardon me?
That's kind of way out in the future.
Yeah, it is. Sorry about that.
So let me talk about this briefly. So so for MDL cases, we're looking for if you have some sort of plan that is written down. So if you have a quad chart that includes a date for something being done, that would qualify in this context as a transition plan. If you have something more elaborate, then that would also, obviously that would be the best thing. But if you have at least a quad chart, we would say you do have a transition plan, and you probably have some notional transition date, and you would want to add that.
So we would upload a copy of our quad as the transition plan?
Right,
okay.
Right. That's sort of that would be a minimal thing, and it would suffice.
But we would have to update it every time the quad changes?
In theory, you'd want to do that, yeah. But I mean, I wouldn't say it's absolutely necessary, but maybe when you get pinged to do it then. I mean, it's really this was kind of a requirement that was imposed on us. I'm not necessarily completely happy with it, but the agency wants to know because there's a perception that a lot of projects are not well organized. They don't have good plans, and so this was sort of put in place. Okay, Mike.
Okay. So then, yeah, we do have the option to add that transition plan. You just have to expand this little panel here, browse, and you can browse to that wherever you have your transition plan located. and then go to the next option. The last option is any categorization or tags to add to this project. This is to allow for, we have another portlet in our virtual lab where we can organize things by categories and by tags and things like that. And we have different options here.
So Weather Ready Nation is going to be the one, obviously, for most of our stuff. But there could be others. These are optional, so if you really, we really like you to do this, but if for whatever reason you don't have the time or you want to come back to it, you can do that later. These you might want to. And then the tags, so the benefit to putting effort in here is that, like Mike was hinting at, if you search on stuff and you want to make it easy for somebody to find your project, then you want to select tags that are meaningful. And those are completely, those are free form, right, Mike?
Correct, they are. You can just type anything you want in here.
So you could put like Arthur Taylor's baby, and people, could search on that and maybe find it.
All right, and then on this step 5, we do add the save button on here. Go ahead and save that, and that is the completion of entering that project. And then it takes you back, if you have multiple projects to enter, you can enter a second one here, or you can just hit this back button right up here, and it'll take you back to the main page. And it actually sorts that one you just entered up to the top when you come back to this page. And you can see that we have a status here. It's status of pending, and that is we just have a quick one-step review process. We have line office delegates to review these entries as they come in through a workflow, and you can see the next one here has been approved, and it goes as an active status there.
Yeah, so for Weather Service projects, which all of ours are, I'm the line office approver, so I will get an email to tell me that you entered it, and then I probably will just approve it. I might ask you to change something or correct something, but as quickly as I get it, I'll try to approve it. You want to show them the edit thing while you're there on the side for their.
Okay. Yeah, I'm going to show the one that's already been approved, because you can edit more things once it's been approved. And the one thing that you can't change until it's been approved is the status. But now that this one's been approved and it's in an active state, we can change that status that Steve was talking about earlier. Has it been completed? Has it been terminated? So that's where you could change that there. And then again, these forms are the same form, same steps, and you can change everything in those steps.
So what's the difference between dormant? There are 5 choices for the active: pending, active, dormant.
Yeah. So dormant is we intended. We send a ping out to somebody and we don't get a response, then we're going to automatically switch it to dormant, which means it might be set up for termination because somebody is no longer being supported, or the PI is left, or it's in some sort of uncertain state. The rest, terminated, means that it has been ended before it got transitioned.
Can you show us the options again?
Yeah. So pending is at only this temporary state before the line office approver approves it, and then once it's approved, it becomes active. So it's good. Most of them are going to be active, at least for now. Okay, Mike.
All right.
I want to leave time for some questions, so let's try to. I think we're pretty close.
Yeah, I think we're nearly through. We talked about later we might be pinging to change the TRL level, so that would be the step 3, where that might change over the course of time. So that's where you would find that to make that edit.
So the other thing here, just hang on to the table. So there's a way to attach documents too. So one of the things that's potentially useful is you might attach documents that you want to promote the project. So people will be able to see once it's active. If it's in a pending state, only myself and you can see it. But once it becomes active, anybody in NOAA could see it. So you may want to attach in the attached documents thing, and you can sort of go there. It's similar to the transition plan. You can upload documents, and you want to put PowerPoints or any sort of promotional material that people might want to access. You can do that. This would serve the goal of trying to facilitate collaboration, perhaps, by if you make an effort in this area, make potential collaborators find your project or be able to put material they might want to read, then you can do that. So, and Mike's showing you, it's basically a pretty simple upload procedure. So while we can, why don't we open up for some questions? And also, Mike, you can show them. You can show them the report, the BERT report page.
Oh, sure. Okay.
Oh, we got questions from anybody on the line. I mean, what I'd hope for is that you all would take a crack at this as soon as you can, and decide, what from your quad charts you might want to include, and start at it, and begin filling out. So MDL, we would be role models for the other parts of the Weather Service. The first thing they would see when they go to that table would be a bunch of MDL projects, and I think that would be a good thing. So you can see we have, Mike just brought up, there's this, when you click on the reports, there's these dynamic calculations. It sort of sorts what's ever in the database in terms of these TRL levels, and so that's something that is what the agency wants to see. There's the refresh on this is cached, so if you add a project, you're probably not going to see this update right away because it takes some time to do these. So we try to. I think the refresh is every few hours or something on it like that. So questions, other questions from anybody?
You be able to see, like, once you have an accumulation of projects, and maybe after a year to actually see how projects have moved from one stage to the other, and really kind of see progress rather than just an instant.
Yeah. There's you can see one of the fields. You can see, Mike. Why don't you show them the TRL history?
Yeah. So we haven't really transitioned anything since we're just starting to enter this data. But off this drop down onto the right, we do have a TRL history option, and it'll bring up a little table of, right now we just have when it was entered to present, but this could have multiple lines as that transitions over time.
But answer your question. I mean, this is the first cut, but we intend to mine this for metrics along those lines because we want to know, like, that picture. First we want to know where are most of the projects, where are they falling, how long does it take relative to move, that sort of thing. So the answer is yes, but we're not there yet with all of them. Other questions about how to enter in data? So you can see, I mean, this as this gets filled out across the agency, that's going to have a lot of stuff in it, and we'll see what we get. Okay. Good enough.